I don't know, like, she's out there. You're the Florida version of Sex and the City, JD.
That's when I was smoking my cigar.
Don't be an asshole today.
Hello.
I'm here.
Wow. I'm fine. Fresh as a daisy.
Fresh as a daisy, makeup on.
Freshly showered. I didn't even get a chance to really like blow dry my hair because I didn't want to make my room hot. So it was just like,
Oh, it's starting the heat, huh?
yeah. But here's the good news. The air conditioner gets delivered on Monday and installed on Wednesday.
Nice. It's happening.
It's all happening. I requested that Hazel take me out so that I don't have to be here for the construction part.
There you go.
Yeah. So Gemma will manage the project.
As she does so well.
As she does so well. Like stuff like this doesn't bother her.
Right.
So that's good because we are we'll have that week off. Like I don't have to worry about a podcast on Wednesday.
Right.
We're gonna do that one on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Which reminds me, I'm probably gonna send the link today because the manager asked for it in advance.
Oh, okay.
And I got to do that again with the Ukrainian singer too.
Oh, okay.
But I will try and put the date and the time in the header, so it's explained. But anyway,
I'm excited about today's podcast. I'm glad that we got.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Like this is my my cousin Kris, who we weren't really close growing up. I'm like about probably 10 years older than her, but yeah, her I'm trying to think of how this. Yeah, my mother's first cousin was married and to Chris's mom. They had Kris and her brother Greg, and then they got divorced, and so then I didn't get to really see Kris and Greg because they were probably like maybe 7 or 8, and I think they got divorced. But we reconnected on Facebook so much, and she's got a little boy Ezra who is just an absolute riot. Like I love this kid. And we've like FaceTimed and really like caught up and had some really good chats and stuff. So I just love her and her family, and they are such staunch LGBT allies. Like they've been going to Buffalo Pride for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Since before Ezra was even born. But they went this year and they posted like a bunch of pictures, and it just dawned on me that it is such a gift to have like a family member that's an LGBT ally,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I just, I asked her if she could, come on and just talk a little bit about that. And she also said we can use her pictures, which I thought was really cool.
Nice.
So yeah, hopefully she pops on because I know you got someplace to be after. But yeah, we were, we're always talking about like our community, but the thing of it is that I think some families have such, don't start. My cat's on bug patrol now, like mosquito patrol.
Oh, okay.
So don't even. And she meows at it. You have to kill them. You have to show her the dead body on a Kleenex or a tissue and let her inspect that it's dead before she calms down. So we do this every night now. Okay, so here comes Kris. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah, it makes me proud to have like an LGBT ally in my family.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey.
Hi.
JD, this is my cousin Kris. Kris, this is JD.
Hi,
Hi, nice to meet you.
I was just explaining how we're related to JD.
Were you able to do that through the whole line?
Yeah, yeah. My mother's first cousin was married to Kris's mother, and like gave her the whole rundown. I was saying like we weren't super close growing up, but we've like reconnected, and
Yeah.
it really pains me, that we lost like so much time. Like I was like gone by the time you were
But
growing up.
you're a little older than me.
Yeah, a little bit. We discussed that.
So you wouldn't have wanted to hang out with me then anyway.
You never know. I was a good babysitter. I was like everybody's babysitter. So,
I could have used one of those.
Exactly. Now you could.
It makes a big difference when you're in that part of your life. The 10 years is different. Like now it's not a big deal, but
right.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're doing okay? Everybody's good?
Yeah, everybody's fine.
That's cool.
Brian, I have the house to myself.
You cleared him out for this.
Yeah. Brian took Ezra to karate and then to Target.
Oh, perfect. Okay. This is great. So I was telling JD that I approached you about being on the show, and you of course said yes. And and I was saying like it just means the world to have like an LGBTQ ally in the family. Not that we have haters, but we don't necessarily have.
It's a don't ask, don't tell situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you said to me, which I found like so surprising, that you've been going to the Pride Parade for like 15 years.
I've actually been going longer, but I've only been going with my husband for 15 years.
That's just, it's incredible. It's amazing.
Wow,
and yeah, this year the pictures were fantastic. Like, and I love that you had your mom hugs for free with the rainbow. Yeah. And Brian, her husband is Brian. He had on the dad hugs. Sure.
And his had a big T-Rex hugging a baby T-Rex.
That's true. And Ezra was like the flag bearer. He was just like right out there doing a dance.
Yeah, he had a whole routine he apparently set up without me knowing.
He's such a character. But like, I was, in our family, we've got a couple of gay-mos, we had, yeah. And I think, for me, the first introduction to it all was Pat.
Yes.
Right? Your uncle,
Yes.
My cousin.
Yes, Uncle Pat.
Yeah. And he lived in Vegas for a really long time. And, but nobody made like a big deal out of it. Like.
He was younger, I guess.
Yeah.
Like when he came out to, like his brothers was an issue.
Yeah.
And then they all got over it.
Right. Because they were like the macho, Italian boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing I loved about Pat was that I think when he would come to my house, when he would come home from Vegas for a short time, first of all, he always brought the best gifts, like the coolest clothes. He always gave me the coolest haircut, and he was a hairdresser, obviously. But like the thing about it was that I think he felt like so safe, like in my house, like I would come out of my room or whatever. Him and my mother would be doing the hustle in the good living room that you weren't even allowed to walk in, because the shag rug had to be perfect. But they'd be doing the hustle together and all these, dances from clubs and everything. And I was like, this is really cool, And then I made the connection. I figured everything out on my own. And then I got overwhelmingly scared and sad when the AIDS epidemic, started happening, because I was so fearful for him. So it was like a wave of emotions and everything. But I think when you see your immediate family being supportive, it kind of gives you a little bit of a calmness,
I'm sure.
At the time, I don't really recall that feeling, but like looking back as a grown up, like I thought it was really cool, and, we have others, Phyllis and, whatever, but successful, business, chiropractor, all that kind of stuff. And nobody made a big deal out of it and everything. And I think that was, pretty cool. But as I recall growing up, there wasn't that much to go on. Like, I don't know if things have changed because Kris is still in Niagara Falls where I grew up.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, there wasn't like gay bars anywhere, and
there still aren't down here.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like,
is that a small town where you are?
Yeah, it pretty much is. I think, I don't even know what Niagara Falls has now, but it's pretty small.
yeah.
And what's left is pretty terrible.
Yeah. Crappy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, like in its heyday, like when I was in my teens, we had like the Rainbow Center down by the falls, which was a really cool mall. Never got any traction, ended up closing, just like desolate area. We had Fall Street Station, which was fun and full of bars like the Pleasure Dome and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, closed. It's just, I think, poor city management, a lot of politics got in the way, and things are just always closing and never reopening as something better,
Right.
like they stuck a casino in down there,
And that's pretty much the only thing thriving.
That's the only entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember that when I was home, for Aunt Joanne's funeral, I was just like, wow, this is it. Other than having good restaurants, good little restaurants here and there, not much to do, but no presence, no LGBTQ presence, no nothing to go on. And JD and I were just guests on a podcast called the 80s TV Ladies, where we were talking about the lack of representation on television back then. And, because that was pretty much the go-to place, like to learn anything, or, we didn't have the internet or, a place to look and read and, figure these things out. So it was really difficult. But what I've noticed, and I don't know, maybe you can confirm or deny this for me, but it's things are like it's a little tricky to maneuver around politics now, because whereas like New York might be a blue state, Democratic, that pocket of Niagara Falls does not feel Democratic at all.
It is, no, they are not.
They are not.
So pretty much the whole part of Western New York is not.
It's so weird to me. Like,
it's
very, very weird that there's so much division in that direction. And I think a lot of it is, fueled by the economy and lack of jobs and all that kind of stuff. And people want to throw hate, thinking it's all Democrat fault.
Yeah.
But that also spurs, like we were talking with the 80s TV Ladies about this vitriol of hate that becomes, a force, and it just gets regurgitated across social media, and it, picks up steam because they're louder than the people that are promoting love is love.
Right.
Right. And it's got to be a little tricky. Like, do you have, or have you ever had any fears about going to like Pride festivals and Pride Parade and supporting the queers? And
not really. I think only because I've been going for so long. This year I was a little hesitant only because of how much it seems every public outing seems to be a possibility for anything to happen. But we just had to say, screw it. And you can't protect yourself from everything. So we just decided we're going to do it regardless.
And did you feel like differently having a child and bringing a child as opposed to when you were single and just whooping it up?
Actually, no, I didn't. That may sound terrible. Like, no. I'm like, go on to the most dangerous areas of our city. It's cool. But like, we brought him for the first time when he was a toddler. And even then I feel like I don't know. I don't have that fear of other people, I think, which probably I don't know if that's good or bad, but like there was one guy whose lawn we were on, who was at the parade, and he really drunk was walking his dog, and it was like after school special all the way, where he came up to Ezra, said, "Do you want to pet my dog? Do you want to take my dog for a walk?" And we're like, "Bye." And then for me, I was like, "Hey, Brian, you should probably follow him." Just because this is a complete stranger.
Yeah, it's just a different
Like
time,
that
isn't
thought
it?
isn't like my first thought of like, oh, someone's gonna hurt him, someone's gonna hurt us.
Yeah.
That's great. Like we were talking about before, like I was home in Florida in March. JD was playing at West Palm Beach Pride, and we had this, big plan. We were going to go. She bought rainbow bracelets with the podcast information on it and everything. We were all set. And
We
then
were ready.
someone put a bug in my ear saying DeSantis is whipping up protesters, and there's, probably going to be.
Well, because
I went, no. And all of a sudden, for the first time, in my adult life that I've been out, I was like fearful. And I texted her and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to, if I want to go. But you know what? The thing of it is I think that fear drove me to do research. Like, what did he say? Where was he at? What was he speaking? And I couldn't find anything. So I went back to my friend and I said, where did you hear this? Did you read it somewhere? Was it in the paper? Was it on the news? Like, where did you? And she went, oh no, somebody was just talking about it in the office. And I'm like, okay, because I can't find anything,
Right.
And so then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? Whether it's going to happen or it's not, I'm still going to go, And I was so glad that I did. And we were both saying, like, JD like sent me a link, like they've upped security and everything.
I saw somewhere there was an article about that, but I hadn't heard anything about potential problems. But I was going to do it anyway, regardless, because I thought, what a great way to go down, sing a song at a Pride Fest.
I had no idea that was your logic.
That was my logic. That's a great way to go out, but
it's true.
But no, but it wasn't. I think it was more the media hype than actually anybody really feeling that way.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, do you get like any feedback from your friends saying why you going to Pride Fest? Like, why you bringing your son there?
Not really, because I think because I've been doing it for so long and they all get it.
Yeah.
Some of them said, oh, I'll meet you here there. Of course, it very rarely happens, but I used to go with like a group of friends, and now it's more or less like their kids don't feel like going, or, they have other obligations.
Yeah. Well, I was watching, in honor of Pride Month, Queer as Folk. I started watching starting from the first episode when we had Michelle Clooney on the show.
Oh, right.
And, so I was watching the Pride episode, and it was when Michael was afraid that his friends at work would find out that he was gay because they didn't know what the Q marked, the big Q. And so he, and the guys that worked there said, he said, oh, I've never been. They said, Mike, have you ever gone? And he says, no, I've never been. And they go, well, we're going. And the other guy goes, well, of course, one guy was saying, oh, we're going with all the freaks and the fairies. That was the one guy. But then the other guys go, well, it's the best party in town. It's the best event we ever have. So, and no one else cared, and then it was great because Michael ends up going in drag and kisses the guy that was saying we're going to see the freaks, and he didn't know it was him. He didn't know. He thought it was this beautiful woman.
That's so funny.
I think there are people that probably feel that way. It's just a fun event. It's just fun to go to.
Yeah, and you, Kris, you got a real diverse group of friends, anyways. You always have, right? Yeah,
I always have.
Yeah,
and they range from everything from like the most liberal, I'm everything's okay kind of people to I'm gonna be part of the college Republicans. So, and even then, everything has always been okay with everyone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's amazing because I remember probably like in 2015, I think it was, I started noticing, on Facebook, like a lot of the people that I went to school with were all like very pro-gun, you know, down with the Democrats and posting these awful, memes of Nancy Pelosi and, all hail Trump. And like, I was
Yeah.
like, what is happening? And then I noticed like a couple family members, and immediately I felt my opinion change, and I went, you know what? I gotta unfollow. And I did this huge sweep because I just didn't want to see it, And even now, like I'm so surprised at, the girls that I went to high school with that I was so close with. Like when I was there for Aunt Joanne's funeral, they were there like every day. They brought food over, they were driving me wherever I wanted to go. And they've always been like super supportive. Like we went out to, I think, Water Street. I don't know, some bar in Lewiston.
Yeah, it was Water Street at the
Water
time.
Street,
I don't
right,
know what
okay.
it is now.
So we went there and we had a couple of drinks, and they were all asking like how I met my wife, and telling them the story, and they were just like, oh my God, that's so sweet, all super, super supportive. And
Great
then,
story.
here it is a year later, and I'm looking at their Facebook stuff, and I'm seeing who they're voting for and who they're supporting, and I'm like, so I
You
kind of
question it's the same person.
right. Does it feels so weird that they could be exactly how you remembered them in high school, yet they're because you didn't know anything about politics when we were growing up. We didn't care, what someone's views were or anything. So it's just super strange. So now I just kind of like snooze them for 30 days when something happens.
Absolutely. I do that constantly.
And then I'll see something like pop up and go, oh, looks like 30 days are up. Gonna have to do it again, and
Yeah.
I don't want to let go completely, but I just don't want to see that kind of stuff, and I've gotten better about like trying not to cause a reaction and division,
Right.
through social media. So I just stopped, posting anything like political or whatever, and I feel better about it. Like I feel like I'm not having to yell at people on my page and tell them to stay off of it and don't comment unless it's your own page. And so
Sometimes
it's
it's the easier way to just snooze.
snooze them. You're not getting rid of them totally. You don't have to feel bad or guilty. Right. You're
I've
right.
gotten rid of people totally.
Yeah. I have done that. Yeah.
I feel like when it gets too extreme, you just gotta screw it.
That's easy. Yeah, that's totally easy. It's just the ones that I just can't believe it. Like still, I still can't believe it to this day. But yeah, I do always, I think it's an actual like gift. I was saying before you popped on, to have the support, of people who, that get it, that understand what our struggles are and why we have a Pride Fest. And
Right.
the fact that you wore the free mom hugs shirt is so, it's like powerful, it's compassionate, it's empathetic, because not everybody's family is accepting, and they miss their mom hugs, or they got kicked out of the house, they haven't seen their family in years, they've got a new chosen family, but it's not exactly the same. So I think it's so sweet that you would do that. Did you get a lot of hugs?
It was kind of crazy because I didn't expect the response that we got, and it almost like brought me to tears, some of the people that came for their hugs, because you could tell how much they needed it.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to let go, and I wasn't gonna let go until they did. So it was some of them it was just so tough. Even when they were done hugging, I wanted to be like, here's my number, call me. And then I was like, I might be a creep. That might, like,
right. I want to be your friend, but not in a creepy way.
yeah.
A weird way.
Yeah, it's so emotional. It really is. And I always feel so lucky, that my family is the way they are. And when I hear someone else's, stories that weren't as fortunate, like it just immediately, makes you really aware, that
Mm.
some people are just cut from a different cloth. Like, I just don't understand how you can hate your kid,
Right.
for that reason. It's
Yeah.
it's so
Right. Like,
strange to me.
I've seen people treat their kids better when they find out that they're murderers and rapists, yet
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
for
Kyle
something
Rittenhouse,
that is beyond anyone's control, they have to sit there and, disown them.
right? Like, I look at like Kyle Rittenhouse's mom, supporting him, driving him to a
Yeah.
protest with a gun,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it doesn't compute. Like, I don't understand it. And it's gut wrenching. It breaks my heart to think that there's, people out there and to know how badly they needed the hugs. You know what I mean?
Oh,
God,
absolutely.
like
That's
unbelievable.
interesting for me
When
because
Ezra was,
go ahead,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Okay. When Ezra was born, Brian had a lot of friends at work that he had to kind of just let go of, because we used to dress Ezra in anything. I didn't care. Is it clean? Absolutely, he can wear. Is it didn't color? Is it girls' clothes, boys' clothes? Doesn't matter. Half of his PJs were girls' clothes because he likes cats. And his coworkers would say stuff like, aren't you worried about him being gay? First of all, a hat onesie is not going to do that. But second, like, Brian was like, I'll march in a parade with him. I don't care. I was like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like it's just it's amazing, amazing to me. Like my wife's nephew back in Australia, he wears dresses every now and then. He'll paint his nails or whatever
Mhm.
because he loves his best friend, this little girl, so much that he wants to be like her. You know what I
Aw.
mean? Like it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't
No,
mean he's
Not
going to
at
be a
that
certain
age.
way,
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like an adorable little nerd that is into planets and the solar system and NASA and all this stuff, and yet his family let him express himself however he wants. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like so isn't there a word for it, like suffocating when you're
Yeah.
trying to control your kid so much, that
Mhm.
it's like it's unbelievable to me.
Well, the thing is you're not going to stop a child from being gay by dressing them in boys' clothes if they're a boy, or girls by force. I remember my mom making me wear dresses. We talked about this, Denise, and I was
Yes. Yeah.
miserable in the
Yeah.
dresses. And I mean, that's because we were little girls and she dressed us in dresses. But I came from a family like yours, Denise, where there was like zero homophobia. And I had a cousin, older cousin who was my mom's age, who had a boyfriend. And I remember as far back as I can remember, we knew that they were together.
Yeah.
And when we went to their house for brunch, and my niece Joni, her baptism, they were there at the party together. Like,
Yeah.
we just,
Yeah.
and no one made a big deal out of it, and it was nothing negative. So I never worried about that. It must be so hard to have that to worry about, to tell your family, to know that they won't accept you or love you anymore. Because I never really worried about that part of my coming out as who I am. In
And
fact,
you also didn't have like in-laws either. Like when you were married and
yeah,
you got
right,
divorced and then you
true,
came out, it was like you
that's
only
true,
had to worry about your own family. Like I
right.
I knew my family would be okay, but I was also worried about my in-laws because I loved them so much. I just didn't want to
Aw,
lose them, over
yeah,
something like this. But they were great, except one sister. Yeah, Chuck had two sisters. One sister was,
yeah,
but she was like, born again and a little weird to begin with. So I didn't expect much from her, but everybody else was completely fine. But yeah, like I think you had a career to worry about, you know.
yeah. With the music,
Yeah,
except I was working and it's funny because
you
that's kind
were,
of
you were.
in the community. And I remember Joni, my niece, being at one of the Pride Fests where I talked about this on one of the shows where there was an article about me in the gay news, South Florida gay news,
Yeah.
and it was on the they put the article on the cover, and it said lesbian rocker shares story of new CD. It wasn't even about me being gay or anything. It was just lesbian rocker.
This was before you even
I was still married, and my niece was like, "Oh, I was so excited. I thought you were going to make an announcement." And it was just funny because I was still married, and it didn't even bother her that way. You know, she'd talk about an advocate. She'd be the biggest advocate for any of that. It was just so funny because I went to look for the article because I wanted to find the paper because I knew they did the article on me, but I didn't know what they were titling the article as. And so I couldn't find the paper. And when I walked back to the stage, everyone in the band is reading it like this. And Johnny goes, "Do you have an announcement to make?" And I'm like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh my God." You know, it was just funny. They assumed that I was lesbian and I wasn't out yet. So it was just funny that
that's how we met. Like she was singing at Pride festivals, which was
okay.
how we met, like 20 years ago or whatever. And but she wasn't out. So then we had her on our old podcast, and we were always like, well, if you ever feel like you want to come out, we would enjoy the exclusive, if you will.
Very nice of you to wait all that time. It did take me a while because I guess mostly because I was still married. That was the only reason. It wasn't really any other reason, but so it's got to be hard for the kids that feel like they're not going to be loved by their parents.
Yeah. I think it's
they'll be shunned by their family. So I think that's great that you do that with the free mom hugs. Is that what it said?
It said free mom hugs.
And raising the kid to be like open and familiar, with it, and just throwing him right in the parade with a flag. I love it.
He wants to be in the parade next year.
He probably could be.
Yeah, I said, look, we'll talk to some people. We'll see what group we can get in with.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's, I think one of the hardest things about like back when like we came out, like in JD, like even before, there weren't a lot of resources and there weren't a lot of groups, and maybe some of the ones that were out there, to me, I felt a little intimidated, like they were the older ones that remembered the Stonewall riots and
right.
Geez, I don't think I really paid my dues, but think about how far we've come though, and how much fight that we had in us, and in order to get just gay marriage laws passed, like that was huge. We were talking about that with Michelle Clooney. Like, why aren't things changing? Like, we are marching and demanding equality like we did in 2013, when they made gay marriage legal, and yet we're not getting the same results. Like, the resistance is so much harder now, that we're marching and being loud, and they're louder. The hate is so loud.
It's mind-blowing to me though when it comes to marriage and everything, because your relationship has nothing to do with anyone else's relationship. And so why does it matter?
Yeah.
Like,
but
you can marry children, and that's okay.
Right. Like we were saying when we were speaking with the 80s ladies, is that those hate groups and people who don't educate themselves, they're just an ignorant bunch. They want to tack a label on, LGBTQ people, drag queens and everything, as being like perverted. Like, we're grooming children, we're diddling kids, we're, it's just their way of trying to get traction on the hate,
Right.
And it's so sad. Like, honestly, like when I think of like when I was working back in the insurance company, I was still living in Florida. A friend of mine worked in human resources. Ran the cafeteria and the facilities and all that. And her and her husband struggled so hard with wanting a child, like they went through IVF and nothing was working. And, they immediately went, to adoption after they exhausted everything. And I remember like back then too, like Rosie O'Donnell was having a problem adopting in certain states. Like, her residence was in Florida, and Florida had real strict adoption laws about gay people. And I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, like there's kids out there that need homes. And
Right?
it's like what does it matter if you're gay? Mine is behind, just waiting. But yeah, like I just don't understand like why that's an issue. And it's when they leave things up to the state and you have like such hateful lawmakers, putting legislation forth and like no gays are going to adopt, no gays are going to donate blood. Like it's just like, oh man.
Yeah, that's true.
It's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing.
It is, and it's really hard when you see like your friends voting for people that are spewing that kind of bullshit, that are behind it, and you think, my God, like you were at my wedding, like you were, you know what I mean? Like, my wife, what we went through to be together, like how could you vote against things like that? But they're, I don't understand it. But I don't put a lot of expectations on my allies. You know what I mean? Like I want you to go to parades. I want you to go to festivals. I want you to have a big diverse group of friends that you love and support and all that and give out the free hugs. But I don't expect you to try and convince, people to change their minds, because it's like beating your head against a brick wall, and it's exhausting and it's tiring and it's risky. And, a lot of relationships get ruined that way. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like to put those expectations. Just your presence at a parade, a local pride parade, is amazing. It's huge, it's big, and it's important, but I just, like we were saying with Michelle Clooney, she's an activist too. Like, we don't even like, is there a way out of this? Like, is there a way out of it? Is it politics? Is it pop culture? Is it social media? Is it, like we're getting representation on television. We've got amazing, gay singers and musicians that are putting their stuff out there and everything, but it's not enough to change people's minds the way it did back when we were able to get laws passed for marriage rights. Like it just feels like you're up against a tidal wave.
Yeah
The people are totally closed off to it.
Right. Yeah, it's not even an option to consider it. But like for us, we just, in the famous line from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. That's all we can do. But it's people like you that make us, just as proud of our community, like that you're there and you're doing the work and you're going and you're having a good time and you're bringing up, a kid with that kind of acceptance. And it's brilliant. Like, I really can't thank you enough. I wish I could just like thank every single ally there is out there. Handshake.
I like that shirt that you have, the free mom hugs, is something that Sharon Gless would have worn on Debbie.
Yeah, I think she did. I think she did when she was Grand Marshal in Miami at the Gay Pride Parade. Yeah.
Yeah. You could probably march with the P flag people with your son.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't think about that. I didn't even think about that group. Yeah.
That's true. It's just there are, places and stuff like that. We have a lot of guests on that, whether they work in youth services or, like Katrina in Liverpool that put out the book about pronouns and educating your family. And, like sometimes I think parents don't know where to go for that support if they have an inkling that maybe their kid, is different and they want to approach the topic. They don't know how. Where do they go? Where do they go to figure it out and to learn? Like the
I
resources
got
are
into an argument with my brother the other day about pronouns.
really,
Well, because he's an idiot. So, you know, he's not one that's like, I want to learn. It's just like, this is the way it's always been. This is how I'm going
yeah,
to keep it.
yeah,
So he got an application for someone at work, and the resume said it had her name and it had her pronouns in parentheses. And he didn't understand why that was a thing. I said, so that she doesn't have to tell you later on.
Mhm.
So that you don't have to worry about getting it wrong.
and you don't insult her in the process,
Yeah. And he was
Yeah.
like, well, if you look like a girl, I'm going to call you a girl. I go, no, that's not how it works.
Right.
I said, if someone, it takes zero effort. If someone is telling you what their pronouns are, to actually use them.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I'm old school. Like, I find it really, really hard, especially when I meet someone who's going through that process of, of changing their gender. Like, you don't know, like you knew them. Yeah, you knew them as a girl and now they're a boy. And like, when you're telling someone and you're talking about it, a person that knows them as a girl, do you use she, do you use he? So I
Right.
found it very, very confusing. But I think like the whole thing is about moving forward,
Mhm.
and the progress, that's out there. Like, it's move it or lose it.
Mhm.
If you don't, you're going to fall behind and you're going to be the ignorant one. So you got to keep up with what's happening and the changes. And in that
Yeah.
respect, I think that social media is positive. There are positives and negatives to it, but yeah, I think that you have to just kind of keep going with the flow, especially if you're managing people. Jesus,
Right.
Yeah.
In Vegas, really?
yeah, right. Exactly.
Exactly.
I mean-
I actually know a couple of gay men who were against gay marriage because they didn't want the pressure to have to marry their partners.
They can get divorced just as easy.
That's what I thought. The gay men, mostly men. I think women are more like, let's get married than men are anyway, in general. So no matter what walk of life you're in, but he's like, boy, I was really easy before. It wasn't even an issue. Like then he had to get married. He didn't want to get married. Then he had to get married once it was legal.
That's funny.
I mean,
That's funny. I never
he
thought
had
of
been with someone for a while, but
Yeah.
it's just funny. It complicated a lot of people's lives that way. But
I don't know. I remember them like doing a mass wedding on the lawn of the White House and on the steps of the courthouse in Fort Lauderdale, and marrying 300 couples in right across the board. So
They did that in Buffalo too.
I think that's hilarious. You just grab your partner and be like, let's go get married.
yeah.
Come back, we'll go have a nice dinner somewhere with family and friends and be done with it. Yeah. That's the way to do it. But to not have the right to do it, was pretty awful.
Exactly. Right. It should be your choice, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just, what, I'm gonna let you go because I know JD's gotta zip out, but I really, really, really appreciate it. And we're gonna fly in some pictures on this podcast of you guys, because that was just amazing. And I don't know any other way to say it, but thank you for your support.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm gonna say you're welcome, even though it just feels normal. That's all.
Exactly. As it should.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're bringing like the next generation into being understanding and accepting, which is great.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
totally.
Doing my best.
Yeah, you really are. And give the guys a hug.
Will do.
Appreciate it. Take care, honey.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Why do you always run back to
Like, never stop
the
chasing your
love
dreams.
you once knew? You're addicted to a
There's
touch.
that. See?
That's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. Don't ask me why I'm here tonight. I had to take this midnight drive to find you. And as I come in through the door, I see her dancing on the floor beside you. Why do you always run addiction is you. I turn away to mask the pain, but jealousy reveals my rage and madness. And knowing you can read my mind consumes me in a shameful kind of sadness. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. You are my drug, my ever-waking need. I got you in my blood. You've got me on my knees. Why do you always run back to the love you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. Why do you run? Why do you run?